The 6 races of man have not all survived, but traces of their genetics can be seen in the other races. Originally, as a result of numerous genetic engineering efforts, the 6 races were what we will term Northern White Man, African Black Man, China Man, Indonesian Man, Gypsy Man, and Angola Man. Angola Man has not survived, passing early and leaving no genetic mark. Angola Man was not black at all, but pale to the point of being bluish. This colour was due to the transparency of the skin, which gave the oxygen-depleted veins and capillaries on the surface dominance in setting the colour tone. However, this was scarcely noticeable, as Angola Man was literally covered with hair, fine, short and laying flat. This was not thick enough to be called fur, but should we have chosen to call the original races by their appearance rather than point of origin, we would have called him Fuzzy Man. Angola Man was the least aggressive of the 6 races, and this is in no small degree why he passed early, leaving none of his genetic heritage in the vast billions that swarm the surface of the earth today. Angola Man literally allowed an attacker to overtake him while making neither a move to escape or to defend himself. He was eaten regularly until gone. Indonesian Man in the pure form also died out, but through casual encounters with Gypsy Man, merged into what we will call Polynesian Man. The Australian Aborigines also can point to Indonesian Man for a large portion of their genetic heritage, being, like the new Polynesian Man, a combination of Gypsy Man and Indonesian Man, with the addition of some black man genes due to a highly promiscuous black man who travelled with a small band to that part of the world. As an oddity, and tall in stature compared to their tallest warrior, he was treated as a god and given all the women they could muster. He considered this a pleasant retirement. Indonesian Man was short and stocky, with a rounded belly. He had a dominant forehead, which protruded out over his eye sockets, giving him the natural equivalent of shades. He was not swift, but moved in a ponderous manner, and thus his demise. He could not run for safety or rescue others quickly, and his lack of agility and rounded shape prevented him from taking to the trees or cliffs for safety. Indonesian Man had what we might describe as a stubborn rage that, when lit, would not soon quell. Where he stood to fight, and won some, he was invariably bested by large predators. He too was eaten irregularly until gone. Gypsy Man, as the name implied, moved about. His descendants can be seen in India and the surrounding countries, in the Arab countries, and of course in the Gypsies themselves. Gypsy Man was slight and slid from confrontation, a factor of his hominoid genetics, as well as a root ape, which took to the trees to escape, and confronted only when escape was not possible. He learned to plot evasion rather than employ confrontation. His legacy can be seen today in the Gypsies, who disappear in the night, the Arabs, who likewise fold their tents and slip away, and the Hindus, who actively work at evading reality through meditation when they are forced to stick in one place and can find no escape. The hominoid contribution to Gypsy Man was playa diem, so a gentle, non-confrontational nature compounded the desire to evade conflict. is not by accident that Gandhi was able to sell the masses in India on passive resistance. It came naturally to them. Northern white man first emerged in a climate that was not at that time cold, nor was it even in Europe or the steppes of Greater Russia. White man evolved in the deserts of Africa and migrated across the Mediterranean, which in those days was not the water barrier it is today. White men were few at first, a few hundred, and migrated in different directions. Some took a loop south, along the southern edges of what is now the Mediterranean, which in those days was a swamp, and then looped north and east. This band is seen in the large noble noses of the Turks, Afghans and Italians. The band that headed straight north is seen in those with light hair and fine features. However, all are from the same stock. Where white man entered the world in temperate climes, bad weather descended during a subsequent pole shift, and survival became a game not easily won. Warm clothing needed to be constructed and fur-bearing animals trapped or hunted down with the least amount of effort. Survival required plotting and planning, and white man found his stock being shaped in this manner, so that the clever planner survived. This can be seen today in the descendants of white man, who are innovative and industrialized, and at the forefront of technology developments. Of the races that survived, white man had the hottest temper, quick, flashy, but quickly cooled. The root ape for white man defended itself by a loud bluster, shrieking and hopping up and down. You've heard the expression hopping mad, and this is where it comes from. White man even today blusters and bluffs more than he engages. African black man also underwent a shock to his system, but not because of climate changes. During the pole shifts, the dice did not toss a pole into Africa, but the effects of winds and rain patterns brought desert conditions. The particular hominoid stock forming black man emerged from a portion of the family of man that relied on physical skills and social harmony, and this was the legacy black man carried when the desert descended, creeping over his hunting lands until there was less and less to share. Black man adapted by broadening his embrace to include more of his fellows. And today you see this in the tradition of the extended family in most black communities. Black man's inheritance was a combination of a benevolent, large ape which spent a good part of its time basking in groups. Like the elephant seal, this ape had no natural enemies, so the population was held in check by surges in the food supply, sometimes plenty, sometimes dearth. No need to fight, as there was nothing to fight over. The hominoid contribution created the capacity to plan, and did not detract from the ape tendency to social harmony. Larger family circles translated to forced civility for longer periods. Black man learned to employ violence when outside the family circle, so this acted as a release for repressed rage not allowed to be expressed within the circle. Early black man was shaped by those factors, so that those able to suppress their irritability until they could release away from home were kept in the band, and the others expelled where they did not survive to reproduce. Black on black violence occurs, but seldom inside the family circle. Chinaman was developed to offset the ruthlessness of the inhabitants of the 12th planet, who interbred with humans during their mining operations. The Oriental is slight and given to ponder and consider the feelings of many before proceeding. It was foreseen that Earth's humanity would grow and eventually blend. As it has, so the ultimate Earthling was the target, and Chinaman was engineered accordingly. The hominoid stock used to build Chinaman was from those least likely to be impulsive, where deliberation brought rewards and had thus been selected for survival during evolution. In addition, a different ape was chosen as the base, one with a placid nature, where the ape selected for the other races did not have this quality at the fore. These qualities can be seen today in the descendants of Chinaman, who consult with one another, proceed only when there is consensus, and succeed best at those endeavors that require group dedication.